doing something. There we go. We are live with Angie, although people will be listening to this recorded, so they won't be live, but we are live. Angie McGilvrey. Joining us from Apex Physical Therapy in Southwest Florida. Yes?
Yes.
And she's got the shirt that she sent me one. Did not arrive before our recording, but 1% better every day. That's in my tagline on LinkedIn where we connected. And we got the Lose Yourself going. That's her walkout song she chose.
That's right.
We will cut it there because when I listen to it at 2x, it does not sound so good to listen to those songs. But Angie, how are you doing today? How was Florida? And you got PT the dog there for anyone just listening, missing out on PT the dog.
Say hi, bud.
There you
Hello.
go.
Hello. We are doing awesome. Thank you so much for the opportunity today, Bo. It's awesome to be here.
Yeah, I was surprised you haven't done more podcasts. I was trying to look your stuff up. Obviously, you're prolific on social media. The one thing, ironically, I found was about 3 years ago, you did a hands-on seminar talk about just doing your thing on social media, talking a lot about Gary Vee. And,
yeah.
So, but surprisingly, not a lot of podcasts.
No. I've been pioneering this primary care PT thing, and so now it's time to talk about it.
Yeah,
it's great.
You feel like you've arrived where you want to be with that?
I'm scratching the surface. We got lots to do, but scratching the surface.
Tell us a little bit about what primary care PT means to you, because I certainly have many thoughts. I think that's why we connected so quickly. And tell us what it means to you. I'm going to put you on full screen just so I'm not dropping off.
Yeah, got you. Yeah, so primary care PT, that means as the physical therapist, as the doctor of physical therapy, we are the first entry point into the medical system for musculoskeletal pain, injury, prevention, recovery, all of those things. And, when you think, I rolled an ankle, my back hurts, how do I just get my shoulder stronger so it doesn't keep re-injuring? You think, I'm going to go see my physical therapist first before anybody else.
Yeah, I love it. And just to be clear, direct access. Do you want to find out first? You're in Florida. I'm in Colorado. Two of the, I'd say, better states for direct access. But
sure.
What does direct access mean to you? And it is kind of in line with what you just said, I guess. But for the listener not familiar.
Yeah, so direct access is really, as you said, Bo, it varies state by state, but it basically provides the physical therapist with the scope of practice to see a patient or client directly without a referral from another healthcare provider. So direct access is definitely like an ingredient too. We have to have that in order to be a primary care PT, but they're not necessarily, completely congruent of each other, right?
Yeah, so if someone rolled their ankle walking down the street or was playing some volleyball or pickleball, let's say pickleball, that's all the rage.
Oh, yes, there we go. There we go.
They heard a little pop in their knee, their quad's feeling weird, it might hurt a little bit. So they could directly come to see Angie in Southwest Florida at Apex Physical Therapy and tell us what that process looks like. How is that different than the traditional process? Again, I can share my thoughts, but I'd love to hear your take on it.
Yeah. So, I would love to, if I can, share a story to kind of paint the picture for everybody listening with regards to kind of the traditional model and then what we're talking about, right, from a primary care standpoint. So, ironically, this just happened. I just heard this story last week. This is a friend of mine, and he's a PT as well. He hasn't practiced for about 8 to 10 years, and he is still in the space doing his own thing, still helping physical therapy practices, more on the coaching side. And his wife came down with a bout of vertigo out of nowhere, right? Which is how it typically happens. And him being more of a orthopedic sports med PT, he's like, even when I was practicing, I really didn't feel comfortable with vertigo. Now, 8 years later, like, I sure as heck don't feel comfortable treating vertigo, and it's my wife. Like, I want her to have the best care possible. So he calls up the university that is close to him, happens to be his alma mater as well. And they have, at the university there, they have physical therapy outpatient. And it happens to be a balance center as well. So he calls them to make an appointment for his wife, and gets on the phone and says, hey, I need to make an appointment for my wife. She's had an onset of vertigo. And the first question that he was asked is, has she seen a doctor? And he was a little taken back, and he said, well, no. And there was a pause, and they said, well, does she have a referral? My friend again says, well, no, like, that's kind of why I'm calling you. And they said, oh, well, it'll be about 3.5 weeks before we can get her scheduled. And so, that's our next available. If you want us, we can go ahead and do that. And so he went ahead and put her down for that appointment, thinking, okay, this is the best I can get. And, sat and thought a minute, was like, man, this is crazy. Right. And so a day goes by, and wife isn't any better. So he calls his primary care physician, and primary care physician says, yep, absolutely, bring her in tomorrow. Okay, well, that's better. So goes into the primary care physician tomorrow, and, they do a little, ear check, and they do take some blood work to make sure there's nothing, crazy going on there. And basically, at the conclusion of the visit, the physician says, well, I'm going to give you some anti-nausea meds, and other than that, I really don't know what to do with you. And my friend said, how about physical therapy? Like, that's kind of why we're here to begin with. Can we try about physical therapy? And the primary care physician said, yeah, sure, absolutely. I'll write that up. Okay, away we go. So in the meantime, my friend thinks of a practice that he has worked with from a consulting group that he knows well, but they're an hour and a half away from him. So he calls them up and says, hey, this is what's going on with my wife. Is there any chance that you have somebody on your team that would treat vertigo? And they said, yes, absolutely. You can bring her in tomorrow. We'll take care of her. So they were willing to drive an hour and a half, which they did, to go see this PT. And the great news is that after 2 sessions, they drove there twice. After 2 sessions, she was 90% better. And just yesterday, I think it was, when I spoke with my friend, they said, yeah, and can you believe the first office that I called, they actually called me back today and said, oh, we had a cancellation. We can move your appointment up about 5 days or so. So we're still talking about 10 days down the road, that she would be seen. And my friend was just like, well, no, thank you. We've already been someplace else, and she's already been fixed. So, thanks. So there's that. That is what's happening in physical therapy. If you would like to chime in, Bo, I would love to hear your thoughts on that, because I'm sure you can feel my frustration in that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. One thing I'll share with folks, actually, speaking to that concept, is if you are looking for a same day appointment, and I get the frustration of that, and everyone's always kind of, you're in pain, you're dealing with frustration. Again, I've had my wife also had a bout of vertigo. We were in Dubai at the time. So it's frustrating for sure. But one little trick I have for direct access, whether it's with PTs, any healthcare provider, that I want to share here is call the morning of, because generally the morning of is when you get those cancellations overnight. People are waking up not feeling good. So if someone's booked out for with the earliest we can get you in is 3 weeks from now, 3 months from now, whatever, the morning of, it tends to be the best time to call. So that's a little insider trick right there. And again, unfortunately, our healthcare system, not the best, not the worst, I'll say, but it is what we got. And folks like you are trying to hopefully disrupt the system and make it better. But I'll share real quick about direct access, and that concept is, I think as a profession, we suck as physical therapists at marketing. And I've been involved with the American Physical Therapy Association as a student, and I won't ask you your age or when you graduated, but I was involved. I graduated 2008. And I was definitely involved with the American Physical Therapy Association. I remember back then they were talking about annual physical screens, the same way dentists are promoting this. Hey, you should go see your dentist twice a year just to establish care. And then when something comes up and you have a toothache, you have a dentist that you've already seen once or twice a year, and he has that established care. Same thing with your musculoskeletal health. And you kind of alluded to that whole concept that we are the experts in musculoskeletal health. If you have pain with that pickleball, with vertigo, whatever it is, if you have that physical therapist like Angie on your team, she's part of that healthcare team that you have. Hey, anytime my shoulder hurts, my elbow hurts, my back hurts, I know I'm going to go to Angie. She does a great job, I would say, highlighting this in social media. But I would say, yeah, as a profession, we suck. Whether it's state by state, what have you. And I think there's just, again, I don't know. This was 2006 that I was involved with APTA, and they were talking about these annual health screens. Marilyn Moffitt, who's a big name in the industry and within our space, and Shirley Sarman was involved pushing these things. So I don't know. What do you think of the annual physical screen on top of primary care physical therapy? I want to talk about both of those kind of terms, but what do you think of that annual physical screen? Is that something you guys offer? I haven't seen that from you.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing piece of that puzzle. Absolutely. So we don't necessarily have that type of a program built out yet. I love that suggestion, and I love you bringing that piece up. I think that's definitely one strategy that goes in that primary care physical therapy box. We offer a lot of like post-rehab and wellness type options, which the whole point of that is keeping them well, and then and keeping our community within our circle. As you were just saying, they're here, right? And so if something does go wrong, if something, if they do have a tweak, or if something happens, it's very easy, very quick for us to identify it and fix it before anything becomes a chronic issue for them.
Yeah, and I always think about the if you've seen Field of Dreams, one of my favorite movies of all time,
Yeah.
I'd say. And you think of I actually can't even remember his name now. I haven't seen it in a long time, but the guy who only had the 3 at bats was a Moon Shadow Moon, the doctor, and then he goes and the girl's choking on the hot dog or whatever, and he kind of gives up his baseball dream to save her. But he was that kind of old model of being the guy walking around with the your little bag, and you're the neighborhood doctor. And again, as physical therapists, doctors of physical therapy, I do think there's that kind of chiropractors had no problem leaning into this, right? Moonlight Graham, thank you, Tommy Johnson.
Woo!
Moonlight,
thanks, bro.
Moonlight Graham, thank you. So yeah, but I think of that kind of that neighborhood guy, and sometimes when I do my social media stuff, I'm like, hey, check in with your local neighborhood friendly physical therapist. I think it's Spider-Man, and those kind of comments and coming together. But that's the other question I guess I have for you. Having used this primary care physical therapy, there's that confusion with primary care doctors. So yeah, if you have a flu, you're not going to see Angie. But that term primary care, what does that mean to you? And again, how do you deal with those red flags, yellow flags, emergency medicine? I don't know if you're familiar with Rebecca Griffith, the ED DPT, and she talks about top of scope practice. And I think you use some of those same terms in your stuff. So I'd love to hear, what do you think of that kind of, again, confusion over medical models, confusion over, again, chiropractors, doctor, all these terms. But I'd love to hear your take on that.
Yeah, so, it really all goes back to, as you were saying, we need to do a much better job educating, our community. It's our social responsibility to educate and impact on what it is that we can do for them, as you were saying. But one of the biggest things that we've brought into our practice to make sure that we are elevating our game and being the best in primary care we can is our diagnostics. And so we utilize musculoskeletal ultrasound, and we utilize EMG and CS testing. And so these are great tools, especially with the neuromusculoskeletal ultrasound. These are amazing tools that we can really get to root cause, really make some differential diagnosis, and really determine is this somebody that we need to refer? Is this something that is out of our scope? Is this something that we don't feel comfortable with as being, the first look at this person? So, we talked about my friend's story. A more typical thing that's happening at Apex, like the difference in that traditional model and the primary care model would be, I have Mary who calls and says, hey, my son's ankle is bothering him, and I want to schedule him for a physical therapy session. And the first question that my practice is going to ask is, well, what's going on? What happened? And Mary's going to talk about...
It's not what's your insurance?
Did you see a doctor?
Right.
We are the flippin' doctor. And so I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to jump in and say, you mentioned some of these things, and I'm sure just a high level thing where when I have these conversations with folks about this direct access concept or primary care concept, I always mention, and I've had to do a few of these consults actually in the last month over the phone with people all over the world. I've had a few in New Jersey. I've had a few in the UK where they contacted me saying, hey, my 14-year-old just had this injury. What do you think? And I'm like, well, it's a little hard over the phone, but I divert to the Ottawa ankle rules or the Ottawa knee rules. I'm sure you're familiar with that. Do you guys use those? Again, I think it's gold standard in practice, but again, stuff like that where you're talking about the education, the understanding, and the trust when we put that doctor in front of our name. Whereas I know I don't want to call out other professions right now, right here. I'm going to be a little careful with that. But there's definitely other people who call themselves doctor that I don't think are as good at referring out. And I think that that's something I've seen with physical therapy, cash-based, the type of fitness forward folks we are talking about here between you and I. But yeah, stuff like that about Ottawa ankle rules. I always like to make sure folks know that there's these very simple rules. And hey, you hurt your foot? Do you have this, this, and this? If so, you should go get an x-ray. If so, maybe we do need to send you to an orthopedic surgeon to get the MRI. Because, and actually in Colorado, I could order an MRI technically. I don't.
Nice. You're one of those like 4 or 5 golden states right now. Very nice.
Yeah, although we might be losing the term physical therapy or PT, which is weird of all the things. It's a weird political thing. And I used to practice in New York and California where I could not do dry needling. So it's very weird state by state. But ultimately, I don't want to throw on too many tangents here, but coming back to you and just the concept that,
I think that definitely there has to be intention and emphasis behind your quality of care, your standard of excellence, and how you're practicing. I am very, very blessed to have an amazing therapist on my team who she's our director of clinical excellence and our director of diagnostics. She's also an athletic trainer. And so she has a great background from an emergency medicine standpoint. And so we make it a point to once a week, every Wednesday, we do rounds and we talk about these things. We talk about sharpening our skill sets. We talk about what does that mean as a primary care provider. So I think that, you bring up a good point there that does this work for every therapist in every setting? No. But when you've identified, what is that avatar? Who is it that you're serving? And then how do we do that the best, right? And just making sure that we continue to elevate our skill set there.
Yeah, and I do think, again, even I'll admit for myself, having moved state to state, continuing to establish myself, I've only been here in Colorado 3 years, and we just bought our house a little over a year ago, and so it's been just thank you, and just moving around, having the kiddo, all these things at the same time. Yeah. But now I feel a little more established, dust is settled, so now I'm a little more confident. But there's always a little bit of that imposter syndrome, even though we have those doctorates. Again, that profession of physical therapy, there's still this when you say that to the general public, there's still that perception of, do you take my insurance? That's like the first thing I think most people are going to think about unless they've had exposure to a practice like yours or mine. And so tell us a little bit about the insurance model. And you, again, another thing where I saw you post and I was like, hey, that's pretty awesome. Let's hear about that. Let's talk about that of you just cut 1 or 2 more insurance companies and just said, we're not dealing with your nonsense. And I would love to hear about your kind of, and again, I know there's some stuff that you probably want to say right out there.
Sure.
And I think the explicit piece is all open. So I think.
Well, I think when we go back and think about like, what is the purpose of kind of like the disruption and where we're taking things, it's really the overarching goal is to provide just an elevated level of care and value to our patients and to those that we serve. So, that is at the end of the day, patient-centric, value-driven care is the whole purpose behind this. It's changing their lives. And so when we look at then what ingredients go into that, I started looking at, insurance and basically the absolute burdens that go with utilizing insurance coverage and to be able to achieve that ultimate goal of changing our patients' life and doing it the fastest we possibly can, because let's face it, they want better, faster, right? We say 1% better every day. Like, we get it. Like, it's a great mindset to have, but at the same time, like they want it now, which I get it. Like, we're an instant gratification society. So, if we can't provide, we need to be able to provide that. And when I have, an administrator who has to sit on the phone for over an hour to even get an authorization and then be told that, oh, actually, you need to call this other department. Oh, wait. No, you need to call this other department. 3 hours later, the other department says, oh, by the way, you don't even need an authorization. And then 3 weeks later, that claim gets denied because you should have had an authorization. So this is the process and then the practice starts chasing their tail around, shoot, now we're getting denials. What are we going to do? We're not getting paid for what we're doing. How are we going to make payroll? How are we going to keep the lights on? How are we going to keep changing lives? As opposed to, how are we just going to keep making our patients better? How do we get to sit in rounds today and talk about patient care? How do we get to bring new technology into the practice? How do we get to, so, this, it just doesn't align, right? Like the patient-centric model of being able to change their lives better, faster, it just doesn't align with the burdens and the shackles that, I've seen from insurance companies. And I started in the insurance, like this is the piece of it that, I feel that, in speaking from my experience, I started in an insurance driven physical therapy. I established my practice back in 2005. Right. And so, it was all about physician
I was trying to hide your age,
contracts.
Angie. I was trying to hide your age.
It's okay. It's all good.
Give it away.
And, in 2007, we actually bought a second practice just to be in network with insurance companies. Like, that was it. That was the thing. And then seeing that through the years, just what it has, all of those experiences and the burden it has taken. And then obviously none of us are shy to the fact that, with reimbursements being cut and inflation going up and up and up, PT, doctorate salaries up and up and up, like it doesn't make sense anymore. Right.
100%. Yeah. And yeah, I've definitely, I'm in that same model. I'm cash based. I will say, doing the research on you before this, I believe it was from your 3 years ago hands-on diagnostics presentation. You mentioned at the time, I think you were 80% insurance, 20% cash pay in your practice. Where are you at now, 3 years later?
Yeah. So I'm proud to say that, we are no longer, we are no longer in network with United, Cigna, and Humana. So that's pretty amazing. And overall, when we look at like a global revenue standpoint, we are right at about 50-50, where 50% of our revenue is coming from self-pay, and then 50% through insurance. So we're climbing up the mountain.
There you go. I love it. I am curious again on the logistical side, talking to the person out there listening who has Cigna, right? And or even has an insurance that you do take, let's say, and they have their deductibles and they have their co-pays and co-insurance and all this other stuff. Obviously, I think, again, you and I know the answer, but I'd love to share that concept of how do you sell them on, I know you have this insurance, but if you give me this much money right now, or like how much would you give me to get out of your back pain right now? How much would you give me to keep that the light's going, and once a month you come in and we're going to do a little bit more for you than the massage therapist, than the stretch lab therapist, or whoever it is. So yeah, how do you push that? And again, you guys do a great job on social media, but I'd love to hear here
Mm-hmm.
what you guys are doing with convincing somebody that, even in that direct access model of, hey, if you come to us right now and pay us this much money right now, without it being salesy. And I think that's the problem. Big difference between chiropractors and physical therapists is the sales-iness, if you will, of laying it out and saying, if you come see us, pay us this much money. That's going to save you time, energy, and be able to get you better faster, rather than the traditional model of go to your general practitioner if you can go get an appointment for vertigo or whatever, and then go get these images done, and then go through your insurance for this, and then eventually maybe you get that referral to physical therapy. That's the traditional model. So I'd love to hear again how you currently are positioning that, or educating the consumer
Yeah.
on getting, and why it's a better use of their money, time, energy to just get it done through you.
So, you know, as you said, educating the consumer, I feel that the best way we can do that is through through third party. Like, people can listen to me say it all day long, but to hear actual success stories and to hear the actual wins that our patients have, that's one of the biggest things that we focus on through social media, from the standpoint of just getting that message out there. Not only for Apex, but for the physical therapy profession and our community in general, to understand, what we're able to provide. And, in-house, as Apex, as more of our secret sauce, it's all about the patient and what they want and what their win is, and tying it back to that. So from the very first phone call of what's going on, what's happening, what's the goal here, what do we need to accomplish, to every single session, or whatever visit that looks like, it's, let's say it's going back to baseball, like like kind of where we started going in the beginning of our conversation, where we've got, this like 14-year-old athlete or whatever it is. And it's every visit, everything revolves around that goal for that patient. It has nothing to it doesn't necessarily have to do with their range of motion, their strength, their whatever it is. It's like, can you go back to baseball? That's what we're going to get you back to. And so when you're able to connect with the person on what that hope, want, and dream is, that's what we're able to do, because we have more time to do it, because we're able to do those things, because we're able to add that value into our session, and not be, again, constrained by seeing more volume with insurance-based visits, seeing, oh, you only can, bill X unit, or, oh, you can't even bill an eval. You can't even see this person for an eval because, they already had one 185 days ago. They shouldn't need another one. Nothing else should happen.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, those insurance people. I'm curious when we start a class action lawsuit against insurance companies practicing medicine without a license, because most of the insurance adjusters are not medical practitioners, without going too deep into that rabbit hole. But yeah, a lot of times I'm like, where's the medical malpractice? And they're saying, hey, this person has back pain, but they don't meet our criteria, and therefore they cannot get treated by Angie. So we're going to deny any more visits. It's wild. It's wild that they're practicing medicine without a license. It's insane. And again, I don't know how they get away with it, but we're trying to change things one at a time. You mentioned social responsibility and community outreach. Would love to hear how you guys are doing that at Apex.
Yeah, so again, this is a huge part. We've already touched on it a couple of times, of just educating our community. And a lot of people, like, what do physical therapists do, and but what's your patient population like? What's your avatar in your practice? What do you guys see?
It's a little mixed, honestly, and I've done these business exercises, and I get a little whatever with it, because I'm still trying to be a generalist, I'd say. But yeah, I'd say middle-aged, relatively active human beings that are probably parents, busy, work, don't have time for a lot, need to strength train, have been doing a lot of endurance. So I'd say that's the biggest thing: tendon rehab, as well as just basic fitness. I generally, and I think I love to, would have loved to have your husband on here. Or we could do another one with your husband because he's a strength and conditioning coach, right? And he's right next door to you. Live Resilient is the business to give it a shout out.
That's Jason. Yeah.
So I honestly kind of do the mashup there of I kind of practice both ways of I kind of do the rehab, and then I actually prefer, I'd say 80% of my practice is getting those people after rehab, after they have those injuries, saying, hey, it's time to get you strong. It's time to help you with your osteopenia. Pickleball and yoga is not going to fix your osteoporosis or osteopenia. We need to lift weights. So the majority of what I'm doing is getting people to lift some things safely, effectively, and progress them with that confidence there. So that's the majority of my practice right now.
Yeah, so I love that. So the typical community, right, is not going to probably think of the physical therapist for doing that. They're going to say, I'm going to go see a personal trainer, right? I'm going to get a coach. I'm going to get a trainer. And so again, our profession kind of gets lost on the community of what it is that we do and what we can provide. Social responsibility to us is just impacting, educating, and inspiring our community. And so I feel that first and foremost, we need to start at the university level, right? Mm-hmm. And so you heard my story earlier, we're at a physical therapy practice on a university campus that is teaching DPT program that is asking the first question of, did you see a doctor? And what is your insurance? So we can only assume that there is some trickle down effect into the mindset of the DPTs that are being trained, right? And coming into the workforce with this same continued mindset of, I need a referral. Well, I'm not the doctor, or, oh, well, what does the protocol say? Or, we think it begins at the university level. So my team does some really amazing things with some of our local universities. We go in pro bono. We teach some extracurricular activities around primary care, physical therapy, around outpatient practice, around diagnostics in physical therapy. And we host some open houses here at the practice as well, where we let them come in and play with all the toys. Ultrasound each other, see who can find a bicep tendon, just have a really great time in showing them what primary care looks like and kind of what some of that extra technology is. Start getting them thinking about that mindset, right? Mm-hmm. And then on the flip side is into the community. We are just so fortunate to be here in Southwest Florida. We absolutely love, our community. We love where we live. We love being a part of our community here. And so anytime we can take the opportunity to surround ourselves with that avatar patient, we try to do so. So for us, that's going to CrossFit competitions. That's going to like small races or 5Ks. That's going to weightlifting meets. That's going to Orange Theory. That's going and talking at. I did a nutrition talk at another local gym 2 weekends ago. All of this is, and again, it's pro bono. Like, we're going out into our communities so they see, oh, these are the same people that were at the CrossFit gym. Okay, so then that means when I get hurt doing CrossFit, oh, they get it. They know me. I can go see them. But if they don't recognize us in their space, right? It's like there's this disconnect of, nope, I only go see Angie for physical therapy, like if I broke a bone and need to get better.
Or had surgery.
Or had surgery, right. Or, my grandpa, he's on a walker and had his hip replaced, so I think he needs to go see Angie, where, as we do so much more than that.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest, I'd say, driving factors for me in really losing confidence in the American Physical Therapy Association. And I really want to support them. And we've talked about this in terms of moving the profession forward. And I'd love to, again, hear your experience with the APTA. But when recently, I want to say it was 2017, 2018, they took out a ad in Times Square. And it was to promote physical therapy. And of course, what do you think they had pictures of? The stock photo of somebody with the, post surgery and parallel bars and kind of working on their gait. And again, all super important. But as a profession, as somebody who's saying, hey, I'm a doctor of physical therapy, and they're like, well, I'm only going to see you if, again, exactly what you're talking about. I'm facing a wheelchair, I'm facing surgery, that kind of thing. I'm not going to see you for this annual physical screen where you're going to look at my vital signs of movement, the same importance of looking at your blood pressure, your cholesterol, people understand that, or they're going to get their teeth checked for their entire lives once or twice a year, or they're going to get their car checked every 6,000 miles. Where are we as physical therapists promoting, hey, like no one's looked at you, like you're doing this CrossFit thing and you're like, I got these aches and pains and like, should I be doing skipping or butterfly pull-ups? And again, whether you can even speak that language, there's just this huge disconnect. So that really bugged me about the American Physical Therapy Association of where's the connection? What are you actually trying to get out of this as somebody who's putting his name there? And I've struggled with that as an identity crisis of saying, hey, I'm a doctor of physical therapy. I want to say that for the respect or the again, some like, oh, he has some education. And I also kind of throw in there, I have over $500,000 in education around, again, nutrition, around, I think we have the same, and I want to talk a little bit about the dry needling. We've done the same AAMT certified dry needling course. I am eager to take the third level, which is I've seen you do with the diagnostic ultrasound. Again, my concern, I'm a solo practitioner, so I don't have as big of a thing, and I don't think that we're going to have as much ROI if I'm doing it by myself. I don't think people are seeking that out. I'd love to hear how you guys use that the diagnostic ultrasound with the dry needling. Of course, it's great if we can say, hey, look at me, I'm in your your piriformis muscle. Look at that, it's releasing. You're getting these fibroblasts, and you're getting little sesame seeds going, all that great stuff. But as a solo practitioner, I just don't see, again, to the general public that they're saying, oh, I want that. Not just because I saw it on Angie's social media, but love to hear how you're using that dry needling in that kind of primary care approach.
Yeah. So the difference is, well, there are a couple things to unpack there. So you talked about
throw a lot at you.
No, that's okay. You talked about utilizing the ultrasound. So obviously Colorado is a state that you guys have had dry needling for quite some time. Yeah. So there's probably fairly a lot.
I think going back into like the 80s or something.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So probably a lot of PTs do dry needling in Colorado. Yeah.
It's rare to find one that does not do it.
Yeah. So, so I would say then why wouldn't you want to differentiate yourself? Right?
Because if it's a $3,000 investment, I just don't know that anyone's. I mean, it's great when you're there and the person's in your office and like, oh wow, Dr. Bo did this thing and like showed me what my tendon looks like. But I just don't know that that's going to be different than me saying, hey, let's do this plan and let's do and oh, I feel better. And like, is it, how much different is it? Is it really going to be worth that $3,000 investment? I just bought a house and I have a 17-month-old and I'm running the business by myself. It's not, and tax write-offs, by the way, for people, I've had a few people tell me like, oh, you can just write that off. I'm like, that's not how tax write-offs work, people. But I don't know, maybe I'm missing something.
Doesn't mean you don't have to pay them.
Right. Maybe my account's not doing me justice, but it's not like, oh, okay, my business made this much, I've spent this much, boom, that's it. It doesn't work like that.
So, I would say a couple of strategies here. You're providing a service that you could increase your cash rate for because you're doing something that's more elite and different than the person down the street is going to do. So there is some ROI on that piece of it, right? And then the other side is, so like we can go back and like talk about value, right? Like, how many, like, are you in a practice where like you want to scale and have more new business? Or are you pretty much like, I'm maxed?
I definitely have a few more slots for folks and just the consistency there for sure. But at the same time, like, yeah, that's the thing. I'm not looking to go from, 50 people to 500 people in that kind of way of, if I have my consistent people, I try to sell those 6 month, 1 year kind of packages on more of the personal training side, the fitness side, whatever you call that, strength and conditioning side. So from the rehab side, yeah, sure, it's great. I love having people in there. But again, I have found, again, being here in Colorado where there's, and I'm right by Boulder, and there's just hundreds of practitioners. It was one of my biggest fears of coming out here, is it just the competition's very fierce. And then there's people looking for Reiki and body healers and crystals and all this other stuff. And without rolling my eyes and everything to it. But you know, and again, there's so many chiropractors. I can't tell you how many people have been like, hey, I paid $6,000 for this 6-month decompression chiropractic package thing, and like, it didn't get better. What can you do for me, Bo? I was like, well, let's talk. Like, you got to start lifting some stuff. You got to start moving. If you're not, and if that's not included in there, that's a problem. So anyway, that's my little soapbox spiel. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely, it's hard right now to justify. I think, yeah, if I had an extra $3,000 laying around, sure, I'd jump all over it. And on top of that, there's like, you know, do you feel? I will ask and put AAMT on the spot. I'm a big fan of theirs, and do you feel like that one weekend certification gave you, obviously you probably need the reps afterwards as well, but that certification gave you, on top of your basic knowledge of anatomy, physiology, sorry, I don't mean to say basic, your very advanced level of understanding of anatomy, physiology. Do you feel that level 3 certification through AAMT was enough to start kind of using that the next, you know, the Monday after the course and really start making a difference? Or did you feel like you needed just a lot more reps, or did you need some additional education around the diagnostic ultrasound?
You definitely need more reps with the diagnostic ultrasound. My training through the diagnostic, through utilizing the ultrasound, wasn't through AAMT though. I just want to make sure that we're, mine was through hands-on diagnostics, is where we've gone the diagnostics route. So just to clarify there. But yeah, to go back to, like, you know, the utilization of the ultrasound in practice, and especially with the dry needling, like for instance, today, like one of my patients that I treated today, she's a runner, and she came in, I haven't seen her for a week. She had a tear in her post-tib tendon and haven't seen her for a week. We did we looked at her tendon last week under ultrasound, and we were able to show her and measure, look, your tendinopathy here, or where, you know, your tendon pathology is here, it's actually smaller. Like, it's healing. We see it healing.
Yeah.
So 2 things it did for her. Number 1, it gave her the motivation of, okay, I am healing, right? It gave her that value, as opposed to, hey, like, we're pretty smart, me and you, Bo, but it's one thing for us to say you're healing. It's another thing, right, for her to see it. And then she also said to me, which I think is valuable because it's probably the population that we both treat. She also said to me, this is really good for me because it also makes me pump the brakes and makes me remember that I just can't go back to running, because I see that on the screen. Like, I can still see that black hole you guys were talking about. So, you know, and so when she came in today, I hadn't seen her for a week. How's it going? She's been doing her modifications. Like, everything's been going well. She's like, yeah, my pain feels great. Like, I haven't run yet. Like, she's like, I was really hoping we could look at it today. Yeah, absolutely. Let's look at it. So that piece of value that we're providing for, like, they're asking for that once they know that, like, they ask, I want to see it again. Like, show me how it's healing. Show me what we're doing here. So, you know, that value, I think that what we can provide for our patients there is again, that technology takes us, you know, to another level. As far as from a new business standpoint, I can tell you that I've had probably in the last 2 to 3 weeks, I've had 3 people reach out to me personally, not asking to come in for physical therapy, but asking me if they could come in to have an ultrasound.
Okay.
So from that standpoint, I was like, yes, this is, and so one of them was actually another athletic trainer who, his daughter, or his, I think the daughter of his fiance, some sort of a sports injury, reached out to me and was like, hey, I can't get in to see the ortho for like 2 or 3 weeks. Can you guys look at her knee? Absolutely. So being that primary care piece, you know, and we were able to give direction as to, this is what I would have her doing in the next 2 to 3 weeks based on this. Keep your ortho appointment. We need to roll out X. but this is what should happen over these next 2 to 3 weeks, as opposed to, this becoming maybe a chronic inflamed state or whatever's happening over that period of time. So, definitely something that we're seeing great value in here.
Oh, I love to hear that. And again, I'm all for it. I need that extra push to justify the course of the cost of the training, the course. And
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
So we just bought the house, and I'm also like, hey, I think it's going to be $4,500 to put a sauna in here, and I'd like to get that as my next big purchase. So
infrared sauna, yes.
No infrared. No. I've done the research. I prefer the traditional Swedish hot. Get that temperature up over 200 degrees Fahrenheit. I think the research is a little clear that that's superior to the infrared.
Just curious, who do you follow? As far as like from a research,
people,
is it
like
anybody?
The influencers, Rhonda Patrick. I think
that's who. That's what I was going to ask about. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. She's pretty clear on that. Peter Attia, Andrew Huberman, although he's in now his hit piece and controversy as we're recording this. Not that that's influencing my decision there, but yeah, I've tried to look for any research that would tell me otherwise before pulling the trigger on that. I have access to a lot of infrared saunas. I just think in terms of what to invest in at home and long term, it seems pretty clear that the traditional hot stone, whatever you want to call it, is just has better physiologic benefits. I think the infrared claims are interesting, but the research is not yet supporting that long term for longevity. Yeah. Do you have a different opinion on it? Do you guys have? I don't know if you have like an infrared sauna in that.
We do have infrared. We do. No, we do. And most of my stuff I know is that I've read up on it is through Rhonda as well. And I know a lot of her research comes out of the more traditional sauna. So, but yeah, we have the alternate. We do a cold plunge infrared sauna. And so we do like that whole fire and ice recovery.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Love it. Awesome. So primary care PT, it's definitely something we want to push. I did want to ask, have you interacted or even on a local level dealt with like your Florida Physical Therapy Association? Just curious what your take has been on that. I mean, again, sounds like you're just like, I'm going to be the Gandhi. I'm going to make the change from within. And so be the change I want to see. And you're living it, you're doing it. Again, that's why I love talking to folks like you. But yeah, I'm curious if you've tried to get involved at all on that state level, the national level with the like APTA or any of that stuff.
I really haven't. I'm kind of like you. Like I'm going to do my thing over here, and I'm not going to have anybody else tell me what to do. And I'm not about kind of like that regulation and that whatever. So I would be more than happy to to work with folks in those realms. But obviously that hasn't been my platform. I think this, talking to folks like you, talking to other like-minded practitioners in our space, I feel like this is where we can get the most bang for our buck in getting our message out to the masses about what we can do as a profession and the lives we can change, the people we can help. So.
Yeah, no, I love it. I also wanted to shout out before, as we're kind of getting close to the top of the hour. You mentioned changing lives all the time. This is literally my tagline on the invoice I give out to the super bills and things like that when I do give those out.
Dang!
Lives, one muscle at a time. And then you also, I think we talked about it before we went live, is to listen to the whispers before they become yells. And that's where, again, the physical therapist can help you. And I can't tell you how many times a day, a week, a month I get people saying, hey, what do you think of this? Like, it's starting to kind of bug me. Do you think that's normal? I'm sure you hear those all the time as well. And it's those conversations of starting to get the folks to be more empowered, be more independent. And like you kind of said, starting that education on that university level. And the earlier we get them, the better. This is the user's guide to the body. That's something I think is missing significantly. And I did another podcast with my friend David up in Maine, and he has a couple different companies. Physiology First. I don't know if you've seen those guys up there, but he had done some work, I believe, also with Andrew Huberman, that basically was talking a lot about breathing, and that before we give kids a driver's license, we should be getting them to do a breathing license, that if you can't breathe into your belly, if you can't hold your breath for a certain amount of time, you probably shouldn't be able, you can't self-regulate when you're in that car. You're freaked out, someone cuts you off. Like, if you just have that ability to take that deep breath and bring your nervous system down, on top of all the other stuff that happens in life,
Sure.
you shouldn't be allowed to drive a car. I mean, it's a little extreme maybe, but I think there's something there.
I get the point. I get the point.
Yeah. I don't know that we'll actually see any breathing licenses given out, although that would be a cool little thing to do. Be like, hey, here's your breathing license. Now you've shown that you can breathe well and actually activate your diaphragm properly
and adapt to stress. You understand how your body needs to adapt to stress, right? Build some resiliency, as you kind of mentioned, our Live Resilient as part of our sister company. So yeah, it's part of the whole package, Again, like getting into that holistic piece of it, more of what we can do as a primary care profession. It doesn't just stop at surgery, pain. It's all of those other things too, right? Pulling nutrition in, pulling self-care practices in, pulling our wellness checks in, pulling our and that's where I think collaboration comes into place too. Like, just to kind of maybe wrap it up here, I think that's one of the pieces too, as we talk about ingredients into like disruption, is collaborating with like-minded individuals. So kind of like what we've gotten the pleasure to do today, but also on a larger scale, like collaborating with, maybe it's nurse practitioners, maybe it's other people in the community, whatever that looks like, to just, again, spread the message. What other better way to do that?
Yeah, exactly. It's who are the gatekeepers for that information, and if we can get to more of those, even the dentist, again, saying, hey, you have TMJ issues, Bo can help you with that, with some dry needling. Those are the things that are still feel like such a big jump right now for whatever reason. It's unfortunate, again, and it's frustrating, and we can certainly blame the APTA for not doing a better job. But I do think ultimately it comes down to us being the change we want to see in the world. I love that quote as well. So, Angie, I got at least 1% better today. I know. I hope the listeners did as well. We're gonna close you out on your walkout song. Walk out.
There we go. PT the dog. He says high five.
He's a little tired.
He's out of the stream now. That's okay. He's sleeping.
That's okay.
But
PT the dog, he's gonna say goodbye. Tell folks, and we'll have all the show links. There he is. Hey, cutie. Hey, cutie. That's a death stare right there. Love it. And so, yeah, do you have any rescue dog information you want to share? Kind of Bob Barker, go spay and neuter your dogs. Is that a?
Oh. Rescue dog information to share super quick. You have a little one, Bo, and if anybody else has with little ones, my guy here has a children's book. It is called PT Runs Free. It is his true story. It teaches kids the lessons of kindness to animals and also to never give up. And so all of his proceeds from his book go to support more rescue dogs, and we give back to our community. So PT Runs Free on Amazon is my shameless plug.
All right. I will put that in the show notes. I'm just looking that up right now.
Thank you so much.
Is it? Oh, the little. I see it.
Yes, he's my little tripod man. That's
paperback, $27.49 right there, guys. I'll put the link in.
Thank you so much.
I'm gonna order that as soon as we're off here. And yes, I'm looking forward to getting your shirt. Again, everybody get 1% better every day. Atomic Habits.
That's right.
That's how we move in the right direction. Any other things to plug before we let you go?
No, this has been such a pleasure, Bo. Appreciate you so much, and look forward to keeping our relationship going.
Absolutely. We're going to sign off, guys. Like, share, subscribe, do all the things that podcasts do, and, help us grow. Send us that feedback, leave comments. Appreciate everyone jumping in the comments today. And I'm excited to get that book. I got the little one, like you said, so he's going to love that. So signing off, guys. Go get better. Go disrupt the system. Be aware that, if you have an injury, find your local friendly neighborhood PT, or even online. I do a lot of consults online, and we want to keep making sure we're getting folks better, healthier,